Why not do an entertainment guy video right now? And I'm wearing my Cleveland Barons hat to do it. And we're going to start off talking about a little bit of wrestling because this has been news around the wrestling world, and I'm going to weigh in on it because I think there's a pattern emerging here. So we've seen Matt Hardy fight Sammy Guevara twice, and have really bad incidents take place during those matches, where Hardy took a chair to the face, which looked ugly, looked scary, and now he's taken a bump where his head hit the concrete. AEW is rightfully taking a lot of heat about this, but I think this speaks to what may be an issue with AEW, that we see what happens when you don't have a WWE level of control over the matches. So in WWE, back in the Attitude Era, part of the Attitude Era was chair shots to the head, a lot of bleeding, a lot of over the top violence, and a lot of shortened careers. Let's be honest, right? And Vince McMahon saw this and went, all right, no more headshots. That's it. And fans generally didn't like it. Fans at the time generally said, oh, great, so they can't hit him in the head with a chair. And then you'd see like some kind of an attack going on. Like, he didn't even hit him in the head with the chair. And it's so obvious to me, and it looks so fake. And in general, most of that has calmed down now. Most fans realize it's probably better if guys don't take chair shots to the head. I think when you watch wrestling, there's an element of risk that it's good to have that element of risk to take you out of the this seems fake mentality, and I do have that myself as well where I'm watching a match and it's really well plotted out. But I think this is so choreographed. I don't feel any emotional attachment to who wins. I mean, it's fun to watch and I can applaud it. I don't really care who wins. This is just sort of whatever. And so you have to add that element of risk. But what I'm wondering with AEW is this is two incidents now with Matt Hardy, who is not a young wrestler by wrestling standards. Okay? And you have to be mindful at all times about concussions. And they're basically saying, nope, no concussion, and nope, he was fine. He said he was fine. Yeah, guys with concussions will say they're fine. This is something we've seen in sports for decades. Guys will say, I'm fine, I can do this, because they want to perform. So I'm wondering if there's the kind of control backstage that you need. Somebody who's going to step in, whether it's a booker, whether it's an agent who's going to go, okay, that spot you guys have planned for later, we have to nix that. It's too risky. There's a concrete floor. It's too risky. You guys want to go through a table? Fine. Have it at ringside, or we can stage it in this area and we can have it so that it looks fantastic, but you're protected. And I think about WWE when guys go through the stage, and they're protected. There's foam in some situations that they're actually landing on, but it looks fantastic. So where I'm thinking AEW needs to fix things is the safety of the wrestlers. And wrestlers will not, in general, necessarily think of their own safety as much as, hey, how far can we push this? John Moxley's done that as well. And then you look at the Darby Allin spot as well, where he's put in a body bag filled with thumbtacks, and then they dump him over the ring onto the apron. And you look at that and you think, okay, again, so what is going to come out of this is going to justify that amount of risk to a fantastic young wrestler like Darby Allin, where it's horrifying, and it's the risk to me is not justified by the result. So, if you're going to have a spot like that, save it. Save it for some really amazing angle, some amazing turn. But that's my concern with AEW, is that this stuff's going on, and I don't know that there's anybody backstage telling them, hey, that crossed a line. We can't cross that line anymore. If that's not in place, if the wrestlers are really booking themselves, which I'm okay with to some extent, but there's no control over it, I do worry about a really grievous injury happening and us witnessing something just absolutely awful. Look at the horrible lessons learned from WWE's Attitude Era that we all loved so much. But look at the horrible lessons we learned from that, and try not to go too far into the we're going to make this crazy thing happen. The other problem is when you have crazy spot after crazy spot, it loses its impact. Just imagine you're watching an action movie and there's an explosion every 3 seconds. So, like Transformers movies. Eventually, you don't. If I'm yelling in the middle of a Transformers movie, there's too many robots. Oh my God, we don't need more robots. In the theater, I'm yelling. That's a problem. That's a problem. And in wrestling, you don't want fans to go, holy crap, another spot? Okay, you guys need to knock this off. Somebody's going to end up not just in the hospital, but they're going to end up with a career that's over because you guys are doing this stupid stuff to try to one up the last match or whatever it is. Now, meanwhile, WWE, they're messing up in my eyes as well. So they've banned third parties, and I don't know if it's because AJ Styles came out and admitted he had COVID. I don't know if it's because CJ Parker, Lana, or CJ Perry, whatever. Lana from WWE basically came out with this stupid video advertising Bang Energy drink. I don't know what caused the ban, but I think WWE's overstepping. And according to Wall Culture, Paige makes, depending on who you ask, up to $45,000 a month on Twitch. I guarantee you that's more than she's making from WWE for general appearances. I'm not saying she doesn't have $1 million contract with WWE. She very well may. But what wrestlers have been doing is, during the shutdown, because there's no house shows, there's no fans in attendance, their cut, their money is just destroyed during this. So they've been taking on Cameo, they've been doing Twitch streams, they've been creating YouTube channels, they've been doing what they can to try to supplement their income during this downtime, because otherwise they're not making enough and they'll have to find something else to do. But WWE coming out and saying, so you've got 30 days to get rid of all of it, and there seems to be this gray area on what are they talking about. Is it YouTube as well? I would think it is. If it's Cameo on Twitch, I would think, yeah, YouTube as well. It's leading to some wrestlers saying, okay, well, I'll go under my real name because then I'm just being myself and then I'm not. But WWE would answer with, you're still under contract to us. This all circles back to the John Oliver spot on whether or not they're independent contractors or employees. WWE says they're not employees, they're independent contractors. If I'm not employed by your company and we agree I'm an independent contractor, how can you tell me what to do when I'm not in your building and I'm not working for you? And this is where for the wrestlers that are saying, well, I'll just go by my real name. I think they're in the right. I do, because they can't control what wrestlers do when they're not being the wrestling character, right? So I think this is where things are going to get interesting, because for some of these wrestlers, they may very well be willing to say, you know what? I make a lot of money doing this. If they want to fire me, fire me. So the idea is 30 days from now, they'll start fining and then eventually fire people. There may be those that say, all right, this is a way to get out of my deal. I'm not going to give up my income because we don't know when shows are going to have fans at it. We don't know when there's going to be house shows again. If there's going to be house shows again, because there's been discussion about whether or not WWE is even going to tour like it did before once the world opens up again. So there's a lot of questions out there that have to be answered. And I'm not sure how this is going to go, but it's interesting. So both WWE and AEW making news for all the wrong reasons. Both of them. So there you go. For anybody who says, he's always positive AEW, not on this. He's always negative WWE. At least they got the Roman Reigns heel turn right. I just don't understand why they didn't pull the trigger years ago. Because honestly, the fans have needed this arrogant, brute version of Roman Reigns for years. Moving on to entertainment news. Apparently, with the wrapping of Supernatural, Jensen Ackles is keeping the Impala. Lucky son of a... So, Jensen Ackles is one of my favorite actors in the world, one of my favorite people in the world. And if you want to see me starstruck, by all means, if I'm ever in the same room as Jensen Ackles, I would be starstruck. But he is keeping the Impala for himself. And kudos to him, because honestly, that sounds about right. That I would expect that if Jensen Ackles drove up, he'd be driving the Impala. I'd be like, yeah, that's his car. That's what he's supposed to be driving. After all those years on Supernatural, it might be hard to tell where Jensen ends and Dean begins. So yeah, kudos to him for being smart with that. Now I've also started with the dreaded or intrepid, depending on how I look at it from day to day. The treadmill. I have started rewatching Legends of Tomorrow from the beginning and going through season 1 and how dark and depressing it is, and how just all the fighting and all the backbiting between these guys. And I keep thinking, wow, this show's come a long way. It is so much lighter. It is so much more, I don't know if entertaining is the word for it, but it's a better show now than it was when it started. It was really dark. And looking at how Mick has come along so far. Mick Rory started out as just kind of, he's Captain Cold's buddy. He's the sidekick. And now he's this fully fleshed out character, and he's fantastic. I'm really impressed with how his character's developed. And Sarah, right from the beginning, Sarah was fantastic. And so it's interesting to watch this from the start and look at members of the team that are gone and say, okay, so they were replaced by these guys. The team is bigger now than it was back then, but it is interesting watching it and just realizing I never liked Vandal Savage as a villain either. I was never a big fan of Vandal Savage. As soon as they say, well, he's an immortal, I go, well, so they're gonna kill him, because immortals, they don't stick around forever. And that was my impression at the time when it started out, and so I just don't. I couldn't get into it that much, and I know by the end of season 1 I wasn't really watching anymore. And then I came back into it at certain parts of season 2 and certain parts of season 3, and then all of a sudden I'm hooked on it. So I'm gonna go through it, watch every single episode, and season 1 is kind of hard to get through. This is why when people say I've never watched it before, I say you can start with season 4. You can start with season 4 where Constantine joins the team, and even though there's a lot of demons and hell stuff, it's a lot lighter in its tone than was the original season, which is weird. But anyways, I also have been watching Big Brother All Stars. So a year ago, we were discussing Big Brother, and where I felt that there was a break along racial lines in the house, which looked bad. This year, it's funny. So David gets a chance to play on All Stars because I think the producers realized he kind of got screwed right out of the gate last year. But he is less savvy than anybody else in that house. He does talk like normal human beings rather than playing game. And so because he's been honest and stuff slips out here and there, he's a huge target. So I don't expect him to last very long. But he's learning quickly. And yet I like David. I do. Sort of like I like Davon. I like Bailey. They're up for nomination. And I honestly, Christmas broke down after she nominated them. And I don't doubt that she was honestly upset about it. But when she's crying and saying, it's a gameplay, I had no choice. Why not? This is supposed to be all-stars. You're all supposed to be independent and all your own people, and you're all supposed to be like awesome all in of yourselves. So why do you care? You're the head of household. If you're looking around and going, I think my big threat is Danny, then put her up. I think a big threat might be Enzo. Then put him up. I don't understand why she would sit there crying going, I didn't have a choice. Well, then who told her? So if this is a matter of other people in the house telling her who she has to nominate, or having too many alliances, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to break those alliances sooner or later. And I don't think that Davon or Bailey had done anything necessarily wrong. Like, the whole fight between them and Danny, I think Danny's just creating a lot of drama. I think she's been creating a lot of drama in the house from the beginning. And I find it aggravating. And it's weird because I liked Danny the first time she was in the house and, with her dad, Evil Dick, and all of that. But I don't understand why everybody's kowtowing to her. I don't get it. I don't. And Janelle and Kaser being out. Kaser, like last week, when they're like, oh, we got to get Kaser out. He's a major player. No, he's not. He's never won anything. What are you talking about? Oh, he's been in this house so many times. Yeah, and he's won jack squat. How is he a major player? I don't understand. They're taking out people that, I was surprised too. I was looking through the live feed. There's a Twitter account for the live feed that I follow, and Christmas was concerned that Kevin had this power and Kevin might be. And I'm thinking, holy crap, she's worried about Kevin coming after her. Her concern should be in her alliance. Dear Lord, I don't understand. they're worried about all the wrong people, and we're going to look back on this, 2 months down the road, and it's going to be a couple of dudes sitting there going, "Oh, we had a final two right from the very beginning," and women who right now are all turning against each other and voting each other out are going to go, "Oh man, what happened?" What one thing I've noticed in Big Brother, and this seems to be the case very often, it is very easy to turn two women against each other. Two guys, they'll have it out. They'll have it out. There might be a big fight in the house, there might be a big screaming match, but then they'll be okay. With women, it'll be a slow burn, and they'll talk it out, but then they really don't. Then you see in the diary room that they're still kind of resenting each other, and then when they get a chance to nominate one or the other, they'll nominate the other, or they'll go to the head of household to nominate that person. It's so bizarre because it feels like on these shows that it's easy, especially early on when you've got so many people in the house, to get two women to start sniping at each other, and then they'll take each other out. So it leaves the guys to kind of sit back. Now, women have won the show. I'm aware there's been female winners, but it just feels like for women to win this, they kind of have to overcome that tendency to turn against one another. Uh, yeah. So we'll see how things go from here. But with Kaser and Janelle out, although I have to say, as much as I loved Janelle the first two times she was on the show, I wasn't as big a fan of hers this time. She's just, I don't know, there's something that's really not genuine with her now compared to before. And she just seemed to have this idea that I'm here, I'm Janelle, I'm going to win. And people can say, "Oh, she's such a major player." And I kept thinking, not this season, she's not. She wasn't winning anything. So, she's a competitive beast. She's not. She hasn't won a competition. When did she win a competition? She doesn't win anymore. Anyways, reputation apparently means a lot in the Big Brother house. Love Island is also back, and it's in Vegas. So the reason for the hot emoji is because Vegas, it's been like 120 degrees Fahrenheit, over 40 degrees Celsius at the time they're filming this. And they're on like a roof or sub-roof of the hotel they're at. And boy, that looks really, really, really warm. Like you can just see the sweat glistening on these people as they're sitting outside. And I said to Yvonne, I said, it's been really hot in Vegas. But the nice thing is that for Yvonne and I, we are missing the city of Las Vegas. We go there every year. This year we can't, of course. The border's still closed. We had a trip planned in March, couldn't go. We had a trip planned for last month, for August, couldn't go. We had thought about maybe going in December, because again, with Vegas, it's a cheap trip. It is so cheap to fly into Vegas and fly out. The hotels are relatively cheap. They're about the same rate as hotels here in Abbotsford. Like it's ridiculous because they want you to get there and they won't charge you all that much because they want you to gamble and drink, and that's where they get you. That's where your money comes flying out of your pockets. So we don't gamble and we don't drink. So Vegas is a really cheap holiday for us. And we do the shows, but we always get a deal on the shows through apps we have on our phone. So, Love Island being back and being in Vegas, it means they show the strip and we just sort of, oh, there's the strip. There it is. And we miss it. And so it's kind of funny to see Love Island on a hotel. But they're doing a pretty good job with it. And of course, the first episode, you look and you go, wow, these are all vacuous people. I don't know how I'm going to watch any of this crap. And then as people pair up and as you see the personalities of the people in the house and not just the vacuous, here I am all sexy, which is how the first episode is each year, it is interesting to see how people couple up really quickly. And the one thing that stood out to me so far through the first, I'll say week and a half, is that it feels like everybody coupled up fast and those couples look pretty sturdy. Like it doesn't look like they're going to be wanting to pair off with other people necessarily. And yeah, and then that gave me a chance to look up, hey, I wonder what happened with Kira and Cash from last year. Oh, they broke up. Oh, which was a great sadness. Because I was really, really, really happy for them that they ended up together at the end of last season. And I thought, good, because Cashel and Kira, they deserve to be happy. And it didn't work. They broke up. So there you go. Of shows where you get those romances that get together, it feels like Big Brother is the one where they actually get married and they stay together because they're just living in a house. They're bored, they're living in a house together. So you see all the best parts of people and the worst. You get to see all the stuff that you're like, wow, I don't know that I want to be with this person. And if you still do after all of that, then yeah, you have a pretty good chance of making it. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding any of this wonderful stuff. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.